What is going on, everybody? Welcome to or back to Ryder's Record Collection. My name is Carl, and today I wanted to do the quarantine vinyl tag that Noble Records put on. I'm a little late to the party, but it was kind of fun, and I wrote it out the other night, so I want to share it with you. So we'll kick it off with your favorite record from your home state or city, and mine is Eric Clapton's 461 Ocean Boulevard, released in 1974 and recorded in Miami. Has a great cover of Bob Marley's I Shot the Sheriff. Next is an album you highly recommend, or an album that I highly recommend, and this came out this year. This is Tame Impala's The Slow Rush, and this is going to be the album that blows Tame Impala through the moon. I mean, it's so good. Highly, highly recommended. Came out in February 2020. So a tip for a beginner would be buy what you like and pay attention to the condition of what you're getting. There's nothing worse than not looking at a record in a record store and assuming it's in good shape, or listening to the sticker and coming home and it's not up to your specifications. So buy what you like and pay attention to the quality. Next is an album that got you deeper into music, and this for me is the album that got me into the concept of albums, and that is the Beatles' Abbey Road. When I was a kid, I used to put this on. My dad had a CD of it. I used to sit in the living room and listen to this album on repeat all the time on CD. And it's the first album that got me into the whole concept of an album from start to finish instead of just songs. So next is an obscure record that people may not know about. And this was actually a record store day release this year. I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but this is Squirrel Nut Zippers, The Inevitable. And if you've never heard of Squirrel Nut Zippers, this is their Wikipedia. They are an American swing jazz band formed in 1993 in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. The band's music is a fusion of Delta blues, gypsy jazz, 1930s era swing, Klezmer, and other styles. So you can just imagine what's on this album, and it's super funky. They have another album called Hot, but if you haven't heard of this album, I definitely recommend. You could probably get a leftover record store day copy of it if you look hard enough. Next is a group who you collect all their albums, or try to. There's a couple people that I try to collect. Doors, Zeppelin, Herb Alpert, because Herb Alpert's awesome. He's in the list later. But as far as modern day bands that I'm, as they come out, buying, that's Cage the Elephant. So I have their first album that I got signed after a concert by a couple guys in the band. Their second album is going to come up later under another category, but this is their third album that came out when I was in college. One of my favorite albums of all time, Desert Island album for me. Their fourth album, Tell Me I'm Pretty, which is a great album. And then Unpeeled, which is a live acoustic album, and their most recent, almost dropped that, and their most recent album, Social Cues. So, Cage the Elephant, the only thing by them, Cage the Elephant, and the only thing by them that you haven't seen is the album that'll come up later. So, an artist I collect, Cage the Elephant, but like I said, there are many others. All right, a band whose second album is better than their first, and this, out of the band's three albums, is, I think, their greatest album, but this is Nirvana Nevermind. It is so good, and I grew up with it. This album and their MTV Unplugged performance is what really got me into them, but out of all their studio releases, I think this holds up the best, and that's not to knock Bleach or In Utero, but second album's definitely better than the first album here. All right, the next is a whack-a-mole, and I'm going to use my handy dandy Discogs app, shake it up and go see what it tells me. Roy Orbison at the Rock House. All right, so Roy Orbison at the Rock House. This was a 2014 Record Store Day exclusive. My dad got me into Roy Orbison, and he's got a really cool ballady voice. So I picked this up, and I've got 2 greatest hits albums by him. But this thing's on white vinyl with the Sun Records label, and these are songs from when he was on the Sun label. And I haven't played this in a while, so we'll probably play this today. All right, so the next is the album that you've listened to the most in your life, and that one was hard because I feel like that's kind of a phases thing. But I'd say overall consistently from radio, movies, and just because it's a banging stand-up album, Led Zeppelin 4, or their Untitled album with, man, the whole thing could be a single. All the songs on here, Rock and Roll, Black Dog, Stairway to Heaven. So I've probably listened to that more times in my life than any other album, just from hearing it all over the place. But it's great. So this is Show an Album with a Crazy Story. And I don't know if this is a crazy story, but it's funny. So to set this up, when I was a junior in high school, I went to a boarding regimented high school, and it was my first time living on my own in a dorm. And I had never bought a record before, so this is the first record that I ever bought. And like I said, I live in a dorm. It's a regimented school. And this is the album that I picked up. You can see the irony in it. But the funny part of this, though, is I lived in one of the showrooms, so they were allowed to like tell us that we're gonna take pictures in our room tomorrow for the website and stuff. So this photographer comes, and it's like me and my 2 roommates, and we're doing things and posing for pictures. And he takes pictures for like 15 minutes, and then he's like, you know what? We got to redo all these. We can't put the Sex Pistols album on the website, because every picture there's just bam on the wall, the Sex Pistols. So funny story. It makes me laugh every time I think about it. And yeah. Your collecting pet peeves. I guess I got 2. One of them is not really a collecting thing, but it's more of like a general thing. When people bash on other people's gear, or call, you know, a Fluence $500 turntable a mid-level turntable. Granted, some people do spend a lot of money on this. You know, if you've got a Crosley Cruiser and you've got 10 albums and you're having a good time, who cares? So that's a pet peeve. The other pet peeve that I have when collecting is when record stores put the stickers right on the sleeve. It sucks. So that's my biggest collecting pet peeve. And the gear thing is the personal pet peeve. Next is an album or a type of music that people would be surprised to know that you like. And for me, that is probably electro swing. It's like jazz meets EDM. So Wikipedia calls electro swing or swing house music is a music genre that combines the influence of vintage or modern swing and jazz mixed with house, hip hop, and EDM. And I got into it in high school, and there's a big rabbit hole, but it's fun. Bands like Caravan Palace, and if you go on YouTube and type in electro swing or electro swing jazz, you can get a 3-hour playlist. And if you're cleaning your house, you're doing something, and it's jazzy. So electro swing jazz is something weird that people don't know that I'm into. All right, an album from the year you were born, 1994. I gotta go with Dookie. Great album cover, and it was released in February of '94. So it's gonna turn 27 next year, just like me. All right, show a 10-inch and or share your opinions on 10 inches. I have one 10-inch, and it was a gift to me because my fiance's name is Tawny. And as far as opinions go, I don't really have them. I've never really done enough digging on it. I'm also not a singles guy. I've got maybe 10 or 15 singles, but I like the album concept, so I don't really have opinions on 10 inches, but this is a cool piece of art, and her name's Tawny, so I'm gonna keep this one around. Share an interesting fact about an album or a song. So for this, I'm going with The Doors' LA Woman, and the song LA Woman, when in the middle of the breakdown, the bridge, whatever you want to call it, Jim Morrison starts chanting Mr. Mojo Rising. It is his name scrambled up. Jim Morrison, Mr. Mojo Rising. All those letters are in his name. So that is a fun fact, and nobody at the time knew what he was doing, or so this is reported. and he wrote it on the wall, and the band members later figured it out and thought it was cool. But very cool part of a song, and this is a great Doors album. I think they're hitting their stride. Unfortunately, was their last, but cool fact. Show an album with an animal on the cover, and when I read this one, I immediately thought of this album, Santana's first album, with the hand-drawn lion on it. And if you look close, you can see faces, and it's actually two bodies, and there's a bunch of faces in the lion. So if you have this album and it's in your collection, check it out, because it's really cool looking when you look at it intricately. And Santana's always got great artwork, but this is a pretty cool drawing of a lion, and it's also a very, very good album. I dig these first 3 Santana albums a lot. All right, show an album with crazy artwork. This is going back to that Cage the Elephant one, and this is the one that I'm missing from there, but this is Thank You, Happy Birthday. And it's just, this album's very influenced by the Pixies and all sorts of things, and it's like psychedelic craziness basically. But I saw him on tour with this, and I had one of these shirts for a while and I grew out of it, but this is, I think, pretty crazy artwork. And I think there's something in here too. Yeah, so you can yeah, pretty crazy to me. All right, a really good album that you can get for cheap. I love this guy, so this for me is really easy, but Whipped Cream and Other Delights by Herb Alpert, the Tijuana Brass. You can find this at a lot of thrift stores for $1 or $2, or at a record store for probably $1 or $2. So it's really, really entertaining. It's a very, very easily digestible jazz album if you haven't heard it, and the cover's great, so you can make it a piece of art if you want, put it on the wall or something like that. But you can probably find one for $1 or $2, and it's a great album in my opinion. Okay, so next is show an album with an acquired taste. And if you have heard of this band, you'll chuckle a little bit, because you definitely understand that they are an acquired taste. This is Mindless Self-Indulgence, and this is their album If, and they are definitely an acquired taste. I mean, even the artwork is an acquired taste. But this is my favorite album by them, and the only album I have on vinyl. I might get You'll Rebel to Anything, because that's another good album. But if you haven't heard of Mindless Self-Indulgence, they are an American electro-punk band formed in New York City in 1997. Their music has a mixed style which includes punk rock, alternative rock, electronica, techno, industrial, hip-hop, and breakbeat hardcore. So they're all over the place, and they're really entertaining. I was playing this before this came on, the second LP sitting on the table right now. But they're, like I said, if you know who they are, you'll laugh at it. And if you look them up on YouTube, you'll definitely see why they're an acquired taste. And I saw them in 2014 on their last tour that they did, and it was awesome and one of my most cherished concert memories. But definitely an eclectic group of people there, and definitely a band that requires an acquired taste. And last up, your most recent find. This is another, not a Herb Alpert album, but it was the mastermind behind this other very good jazz album. And this is Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66. I went to the record store like a week or 2 ago, and they had a copy of this and they sold it, and then I wanted it when we went in there, and they didn't have it, and then I came back again and they had a copy. So great album, most recent pickup. Kind of in the same vein as Whipped Cream and Other Delights, but there's some singing on this one, and it's not just instrumental. But and that is the Vinyl Tag Quarantine Edition. I enjoyed Noble Records video on this and a couple other ones that I've seen. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was fun. I like pulling out a big old stack of albums and talking about them a little bit. If you like my channel, please subscribe. If you like this video, please throw me a like. I would really appreciate it. I'm going to try and make some more content soon and talk music, talk some gear, try and, you know, swap vinyl stories. And yeah, so again, if you like me and you like this channel, please like, please subscribe. My name is Carl. This is Ryder's Record Collection, and I will talk to you all soon. Cheers.